done, and what are we going to do? And anyway, there were some reasons why we weren't able to do it over here before, but now we are here. So now we just have to fill up this room. And we're doing a pretty good job of what it looks like, so that's great. I do want to thank you for being here. For those of you who I have not met, I'm Virginia Lazenby. I'm a certified senior housing professional in Texas Realtor and the founder and host of the seminars. This is our 8th year, and we're excited to be able to offer this to people. As we say, the purpose of the seminar is to educate, equip, and inspire seniors to make informed choices and empower decisions. And that's what we're about, education and information. So we hope you value that, and obviously you do take time to be here today. I'm here, okay, let's find out. We want to welcome new people to our group. If you're a first-time attendee, raise your hand. Good, good. Okay, we're glad to have you here. All right. If you've been to 5 minutes, some of you won't be able to count it exactly. So if you've been to 5 or more seminars, stand up. Wow. There you go. Those to give you some extras. Okay, wait. Sit down. If you say you've been to 10 or more, remain standing, and others may sit down. And so, yes, I think these people earn that 10-year mark. I mean, 10 seminar mark, so give them a round of applause and give everybody a round of applause. So you can sit down now. We won't push you any more than 10. So for those of you who are new to us, I think you'll really see it becomes a community, and that's what's exciting. The first year we were at the library. Spaces were always working out, so the next year we moved to First Presbyterian. We were there 3.5 years into COVID. And so then for a year and a half, we were virtual, which allowed us to stay connected, so that was great. And then January 2022, when we were coming live again, we ventured a few blocks further down the street and around the corner to McRainie Christian Ministry Center here. We love First Presbyterian. We appreciate their support. You know, there was no parking challenge there. And anyway, so we're so excited to be here. I want to introduce, we have educational partners. And these are people that can't always be here, but we have some of them here this month. And these are people who join with us in a commitment to education. We're not here for marketing. Yes, we love to form relationships with you, and if that develops, that's great. But these people are committed to seniors having information so you make wise decisions. And that's really what we're about and what we're really going to see today. So, give us a wave, Stacy. Stacy Scarborough was visiting angel back here at her table. If you need any information about home care, there's the person to visit with. And I always encourage you to get accurate information. For so many times we hear, oh, well, I can do that. I have to sign a contract for so many hours every day or week. Or, get the truth, please. Talk to Stacy. I was just talking with her about a situation. One of our church members is going to need replacement's going to need care for a week, and we may be trying to put together a package, and they're so flexible to work with. So, and provide outstanding service. So we appreciate Missy Angels joining with us on this mission. And we have Josie Zamora. Give us a wave, Josie. Josie is with Care Partners to Caregivers, a fantastic resource, especially focused on memory care. And I know there's some in the room who perhaps have a spouse having memory care challenges. How are we best prepared? She is a gold mine of resources, and has services to offer to people, so check it out, find out what's going on there. Then, my kids, Nick, Seniors Living Smarter Services, that's a downsizing business I have that supports my real estate. And so if you want more information about the management of how we do the liquidation and property prep, I'll move over to that table after our panel is here, or after the program. And also, I'm just going to put a little plug out for, we have kind of a spin-off of our seminars is the downsizing club. So a lot of people who say, well, yeah, but I need more help downsizing. So we have our downsizing club, sometimes we say downsizing club, whatever it is, but we meet once a month and it's truly a support group. So let's, and it varies, people graduate, they move into communities or whatever. And some are going to be with us for a while. I don't have any intention of moving right now, or they may be a few years ago. I want to get a head start and be prepared. I'm not looking at anybody. Okay, so if you're in the downsizing club, stand up. Yes, right, getting your exercise. Oh, that's right. Okay, Cornelia's out of town. Okay, that's fine. Or not out of the week. All right, thanks. So if you're wanting more information, those people will help you. I can help you connect with them. There's some information in the back about that. But it's a neat support group. Downsizing can be overwhelming. And we want to help make it go as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. So that's a minute about the Downsizers Club. Okay, let's see. Oh, there are a couple of special things. Jeff Cramp is back in sound music. So Jeff is my website person, marketing, kind of by default. When we started doing Silver Lining of Zoom, or COVID with Zoom, and then the recordings, and then we had them online, and that was so popular. So now all of our seminars are recorded. We're not transmitting live, but next week they will go up on the blog, and you will get an email. And so when you have friends say, oh, I wish I'd gone, they can still go. Go to that website, that blog, and you can see the video. And so we appreciate Jeff's work on that. We have our new friend in our new room here from First Methodist being a sound tech for us. So thank you very much. And you met when you came in, Brielle Gard, who is my administrative assistant. Everyone is my lifesaver. So she's a resource there. She is amazing. I really appreciate Jeff and Brielle's support. Okay, let's see. A word about the binders, just to clarify. So we started the binders last January. Here comes your Vanderbilt administration. And the first time you attend a seminar, you get your binder, and you then pick up a packet for each month that contains information relevant to the topic of that month. So in front of your seminar, I would change mine, so it says 2022, but you probably have, hopefully replaced your page so that you have a list of the 2023 seminars. And then there are just some very general sheets in here that you will, they're really related a lot to our topic last month, and this month we talked about being prepared. There's always what we're about, especially these two topics. So you just add on to it. I don't know what's going to happen when these don't get too full, but so far they're working for all of our lives seminars. And so in your okay, I picked it up and then lost it. But okay, you picked up the green packet today. On the front sheet, there'll be a place where you write down questions, and you'll save your questions at the end of the panel. We will open it for questions from the floor. And then we also have on that sheet your action steps. We really encourage you to follow through with the things you get some really great resources and with an attorney last month. So we had action steps, some ideas, be thinking. Did you take steps toward your action steps? We talked about, really beginning to have a plan. And our speaker last month shared with us, what about your legal papers? Are they in order? Your medical documents, your financial, your personal requests? We're going to be going more in depth with those as we go through the year. It's going to be great. I have somebody there. Did anybody use this to kind of push yourself to take some next steps? Well, come on, people. We don't want this to be passive. We want, I know what happens. You go to seminar, you not, and you go home. And it's 4 weeks later, and you come back to the next seminar. Now, I'm going to really challenge you this time. And I think the presenters will too. Because today's topic, some people have some reservations about. I promise our presenters are going to make it exciting. Planning Graceful Exit is going to be exciting, and they're going to challenge us with some great resources. So that you will want to follow up with that group. Let's see. Okay. So today's topic, well, in January, we started the year on the Unity 100, and we did an overview. Dan Soler, an author who I follow, talks about esteeming the two really developmental stages we're dealing with, maintaining control. Now, sometimes we have people learn to take over control. How do we gain control? By having information, and we want to support you in that. And he also talks about the importance of our legacy. That's what we're going to be remembered for. And some of us say, I don't have a legacy. We do. You lived a lot. And sometimes we need to celebrate our own lives, which might be coming up in our topic today, too. But when we talk about predictable dilemmas, like about housing, about health, about finances, we'll keep going on that throughout the year. But the last predictable dilemma, David Soler talks about, these are dilemmas that we will all face when we're aging. And that is, what is the right way to say goodbye? My team wanted me to soften it. The original document shows leaving a legacy, but with today's topic, especially what's the right way to stay in control and have your wishes carried out. So let's see, and so this will bring up the importance of pre-planning, which we're going to hear about in just a minute. And these were, as I researched for this, some quotes that stood out in my mind as one I just kept reading a variety of sources. By looking ahead toward the end of your life and doing some pre-planning for what is inevitable, what if, it's been shown that people tend to breathe easier and are able to enjoy the minutes, days, weeks, months, and years they have ahead of them. They know it's all planned for. And that's what we're going to learn about today. And one of my favorite quotes, Jeff, can you put that quote up there? Oh, it is right there, yes. I love this. This is from John Rattle, Vice President for Communications of National Hospice and Palliative Care. People often put more thought into planning for the family vacation, transportation, and timing the meals, than planning for the end-of-life experience we'll all have. And I think that really gives us pause. And we've got to remember, well, it's got your decision, but I know our presenters are going to inspire you today, so you are going to want to be over this. So I'm going to ask you all to come on up.
Okay, check your mics. Can you hear me?
yourself, a brief what you're about, okay?
Hello. I'm McRainie, and I have worked for Hospice Austin for 22 years. I love it. I'm the director of volunteer and bereavement services, but when I started as a chaplain. And I would visit people in their homes, nursing facilities, hospitals, and then I kind of got lured over to the bereavement side of things, and I guess I've never looked back. I'm really thrilled to be here to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about, and so I want to dispel that fear as much as I can, because I think it's a really important thing to talk about.
So we might say your two topics are sometimes like the elephant in the room that people don't really want to deal with as much. Because with hospice right now, there's a new, perhaps, awareness being created just because of the situation with former President Carter and his decision to go with hospice. And I have to be careful because I don't get the right wordings. But, for many of us, I think we've had a misunderstanding. Well, someone's in their hospice sort of die in the next 2 weeks. Hang on to that thought. We're going to let you straighten this out in just a minute. But we're glad to find out. And also there was something about palliative care too. So that is great. Okay. And who do we have there?
Hello, good morning. My name is Bonheim with Ramsey Funeral Home. Manage the funeral home here locally. We're family owned and operated. And I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here with all of you today. Good looking crowd from this side. We have Ramsey Funeral Home here locally, and we are a one-stop funeral home, if you will. We do everything from burials and cremations to pre-planning to aftercare planning, and here to serve our community and love on people that are going through the worst time of their life. Okay, so we're here to walk alongside people and pre-plan and at need and aftercare planning as well. So I'm excited to be here to visit with each of you. I think this is a great forum to get educated, which is what I've always thought is very important for a community to have. And that's just education on something we each will go through at some point or another. And eventually it'll be our turn, right? And so it's important. And just encourage us that it doesn't have to be weird. It's something that happens all the time. And so we want to encourage you that take that next step. Use the action points in your binders and use the resources available so that you're comfortable, that you're confident. And after you've pre-planned or at least gotten it down, I always have the catchphrase, go live it up now. Go live it up. Now you got everything figured out. Go have fun, right? So anyway, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So when I was mentioning the documents in the binder a while ago, when you all are speaking, you all can tell a little more about the page or the handouts that you put in there, how to put in, and then other resources you have at your tables as well. Okay, well, we're going to start with hospice. McRainie already mentioned that one of the elephants in the room and a lot of misunderstandings. So you have the charge to get us straightened out. Okay, so let's start and kind of level the playing ground here. What is hospice?
So hospice is more a philosophy of care than it is a place. A lot of people think it's just a place, like a hospice house. And there are some of those around the country. There's one, do y'all hear that ringing? Is it? Okay. We do have an inpatient facility, Hospice Austin's Christopher House. It's only 14 beds. So most of the people we take care of are in their own home, wherever that home is. That could be a nursing facility, that could be their hospital room, that could be under a bridge or in their car if that's where they live. So we take care of anybody regardless of their ability to pay or the complexity of their care. Now that phrase I just said is unique to a nonprofit like Hospice Austin. So most for-profit hospices can't take care of anybody regardless of their ability to pay or the complexity of their care. But that's one reason I love working for Hospice Austin, because that's our mission. Hospice is for people who have 6 months or less by their physician's best guess, right? They don't have a crystal ball. Nobody can really say for sure when that's going to happen, when that day will come. But according given your condition. So if you have cancer, it's a little easier. The trajectory is usually something like this and then like this, right? With heart disease, lung disease, it's more like this. You know, you have an episode, you don't quite come back up to baseline, then you have another one. So those are harder to predict. So given that, we have many patients that live much, much longer than 6 months, sometimes a couple of years, but as long as they meet the Medicare guidelines for their disease, and we are certifying them every 90 days to make sure that people still qualify. Some people, this is kind of a surprising fact, get better when they're receiving in-home hospice care because it's so comprehensive. You have a nurse that visits you at the minimum once every 2 weeks, but usually at least twice a week. And as the time is coming nearer, somebody is visiting you every single day. There's also usually a physician that will come out when needed, a social worker that helps with forms to fill out and pre-planning or whatever the kind of resource management needs to happen. A chaplain that can help plan a service or help families reconcile. A CNA, or home health aide, that can help with things like bathing, dressing, sort of activities of daily living. And if you want, a volunteer who can come and just kind of be a buddy. You know, make a visit once a week or twice a week and just give the caregiver a break. So it's a really comprehensive kind of care. And so some people get better because they're not having to spend all their energy to get up or dress to go to the doctor. If I answered that.
I think so. I pick up this more, and I appreciate the thing in particular I want to clarify. As we always say, our panelists are representing the industries they're in. So hospice, and yes, obviously you represent a nonprofit, and in particular hospice, but she's not here just marketing hospice.
No, but I'm very biased, I have to say.
Honesty is good.
I am. Yeah, I think all Medicare, all medicine should be nonprofit. That's just my bias. I don't think we should be, shareholders should be making money off of our illnesses. Okay.
Yeah,
But, you know, try to stop me. I'm biased.
Honesty works well. Okay, so we think of hospice and we think of the patient receiving care. Who else benefits from hospice?
Right, so that's a huge part of the benefit is the caregiver or caregivers or circle of care. So that may be a whole family, that may be a group of friends. They're also receiving care. When I was a chaplain, there were many times when I never met the patient. I sat with the wife in the kitchen because she was so burned out and so lonely and maybe depressed, and so we would talk. Or maybe I would just sit and let her have a break for a few minutes. So it's all kind of ways that we can sort of come up alongside families or circles of care, because it's not always a family, right? Caring for somebody. And just say, hey, we're here for you. You're in the driver's seat. The patient is always front and center. What are their goals and what are the family's goals? And then we try to come up alongside and help them fulfill those goals.
I remember a couple years ago I was selling a home for a lady. Her husband passed away about a year before. And I don't remember which hospice group she was with. Anyway, but she was so appreciative of the support she had received when they were going through that together and continuing after his passing. And we talk a lot about as caregivers, some people, you can't do it all. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody about a friend, I'm gonna do it all, I don't care for myself. You gotta care for yourself too. And so, especially you're talking more later stages perhaps. I mean, we can't change there. Which leads to the next question. You mentioned it, but when is the right time to start hospice? Do I decide, or my husband, or the doctor? How do we work together for that?
So I would like to say that your physician will let you know, but often they won't. It's a hard conversation to have. And so I would say, especially if you have a good relationship with your physician, to give them permission to give you bad news. To say, you know what, I really appreciate how hard you've worked for me and my health, or me and my loved one's health, but give it to me straight. Talk to me like I'm your sister or I'm your daughter, depending on how the age difference there. Like, tell me the truth. And then be willing to hear the truth, right? So often, the number one complaint we get on our aftercare survey that we send to families or caregivers is, we wish we called you sooner. And I'll say almost half, I don't think it's over half of our patients that we're taking care of, we serve for 2 weeks or less. That's crisis care, and we do that really well. But we are built for 6 months, 3 months. I've had friends that I've gone out to lunch with, and they're on hospice care. Nobody that saw us sitting there eating our sandwiches would have thought, ooh, that lady's dying. They would have thought there were 2 friends having lunch. So a lot of people that qualify for hospice care don't look like they do, right? And I think that's part of the myth. We think death has to be in the door. And actually, there's so much more that you can take advantage of. If you're on Medicare, it's a Medicare benefit. If you go ahead and call us, maybe even before you think you need us. And let me just say this. My mother's on hospice care right now. She turns 95 today. And I was getting frustrated because every time she had a little stroke, I'd call her doctor and they'd say, well, you need to bring her in or take her to the ER. Well, it's hard to take someone with dementia who has mobility issues anywhere. And so I would say, can you just tell me, like, is this normal for her condition? Well, you have to bring her in. Like, they're not going to give you any information on the phone. Finally, I thought, oh, I work with palliative care people. Why don't I call them? I mean, it really is hard, even if you're in the middle of, an organization that does that stuff. And they, I'll talk about palliative care for a minute. The great thing about palliative care is they don't just deal with the presenting problem, right? Which is what medicine often is. If you've had a stroke, they deal with the stroke. If you've got diabetes, they deal with the diabetes or the symptoms. Palliative care looks at everything, right? Palliative means comfort. You don't have to be hospice ready to get palliative care. So let me just say, one definition of palliative care is all hospice care is palliative care. But not all palliative care is hospice care. If you have a chronic back issue or a chronic illness, you probably qualify for palliative care right now. And the great thing is they can look over the whole landscape of your life and your condition and say, let's look at your medications. I wonder if you still need this cholesterol medication, that you've been on for 30 years. You might not need that anymore. And you might actually feel better if you weren't on it. And they can also look down the road for when it might be time to call hospice. So that's what happened to me. One night my mom had a little stroke. I thought, oh, I could call on-call palliative care physician. He answered, he taught me through what was happening. He said, you don't have to take her to the ER, just put her to bed, let her sleep, I'll send someone in the morning to check on her. The nurse practitioner showed up the next morning and said, I think your mom might be eligible for hospice care. And I said, really? Like, I couldn't see it. I was too close to it. Sure enough, she qualified. And the nurse practitioner said to me, it's a win-win. If she doesn't qualify, I'll keep coming to see her. So there's this huge safety net with both palliative and hospice care. So I'm a huge fan now that I'm right in the middle of it.
Okay. So again, when we talk about being prepared, knowing about it, you can make personal contacts.
Right.
And here's our training person for your group with palliative care. You probably have, and one of your handouts in there does discuss palliative care. So I remember that's pretty much stuff. Okay, so I know we're going to have more information, so we're going to have more questions, so we're going to come back to that. But so what I hear is be prepared and get the correct information. I just think that's what hurts so many people. So
one little thing. I think a lot of people think this topic is morbid. I looked up the word morbid earlier. It means unhealthy or unwholesome thoughts. Well, I would say it's really healthy to think about this. And it's really wholesome to think about it. A lot of people act like, it's catching. You don't want to talk to the hospice lady. Guess what? We're art guard, right?
bit, oh, wait, another question even before. Why should we plan ahead for funerals?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right, you can answer whatever you want to answer.
What was the question?
Conversations, people today.
Yeah, so why is it important? Well, because we're all going to get out of your life. That's the very first reason why it's important. And you plan for everything in your life, right? You plan to get from your home this morning to this gymnasium to have this seminar, and you probably made plans for after this seminar, maybe some lunch or something fun. Why would you not plan for a guarantee that's going to happen to each of us, right? I asked that question openly. Why would you plan for something that's inevitable? It is not fun to talk about. Yet you can't spell funeral without the word fun. I don't know if you knew that, okay? But it's true, you cannot spell funeral without fun. So why not have the fun of planning a little bit for yourself so that your family isn't burdened by having to do it all alone? It's important. And again, I'm here to encourage you to take the step to plan ahead because it's beneficial for yourself, but it's even more beneficial for after you have departed. Because it takes a lot of question marks away from your family, a lot of hard decisions, a lot of arguing, maybe a lot of fighting between family members. I have a sister. We don't see eye to eye on everything, shocker, right? So we want to make sure that what we want to plan and what we have done is keeping everybody happy, all right? And you can't argue with someone's wishes, especially if they've made them themselves. You can honor them, love them, and move forward. Okay. So it's important. Is that the first question?
That is, well, why to have a plan, and that whole thing where we're left guessing, what would mother want, what would dad want?
Right.
But if we're carrying through with their plans, hopefully it's perhaps a more joyous occasion.
Correct.
And we want to celebrate, I think we keep coming back to this whole idea of legacy. Celebrate the life, celebrate accomplishments, celebrate, okay, not all families are 100% peaceful all the time. I don't know why. But you know what? I bet you do have a lot of wonderful memories, times playing together, trips, celebrations, whatever.
Yeah, if I could just add, I sit across the table from a lot of people. A lot of them have not pre-planned. Okay, a lot of people have a sudden loss. And that is a difficult conversation for the person who's on the other side of the table, but also for us, to help them, guide them, love on them, care for them, but also make wise decisions at the same time. I've also sat at the table across from people who have pre-planned, whose loved ones come in and say, here's the file, this is exactly what we want. Or I get to say, I know exactly what they wanted. Let's get a date and a time figured out, and then you can worry about what you need to worry about, home with your families, grieving, taking care of the other plans that have been made, and not worrying about, what song should we play? Or, I don't know if it's cremation or burial, I really don't. Or, I don't know where we're going to go once we leave the funeral. Those things can be figured out way in advance. And so, it's beneficial to everyone involved, not just the funeral director or your family, but everybody that's included in your planning to know what to do.
So when I hear people say, okay, well, we have a burial plot. I'm going to be buried with my parents. So I've taken care of everything. I take it that's not taking care of everything.
That's a good start. That's a good start. Better than not having that. But yeah, you want to have a plan on where's the plots? Are we local? Are we going out of state? How do we get there? What elements are included? So each simple question unravels a whole lot more questions. And I get to ask those questions very often. But yeah, so the plan is important. So I always say, what is your plan? Very simply, umbrella-like question. What is your plan? Do you have one? And then it kind of goes into the next set of questions.
Would there be some broad categories in that planning that you think families should? And I know we have a little bit of plan in the handout. There was one that walks you through some important steps. And you've got a resource at your table too, I think. Or no, we're going to have a link to an online great document. But tell us a little bit more. So where are we going to be going? Let's even go back. You mentioned, we don't know, burial or cremation.
Yeah, that's kind of the next question after I asked or after we have talked about planning is what is your wish? Because you have two options in Texas, right? Burial or cremation. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know. I don't know enough Once that decision is made, then it's, okay, well, I think my next point is the final resting place.
Right.
Yeah, so burial and cremation is a mode of disposition, essentially. It's not final disposition. Final disposition would be, where is the individual laid to rest? Is his casket remains? Where's the cemetery? Where's the plot? What town are we going to? Who opens the grave? How do we get in the gate? What's the gate combination? There are many questions that arise from that. Cremation, another door opens with a lot more questions. You know, are you going to be kept at home? Are we going to have a burial of the cremated remains, which is an interment somewhere? Are we going into a columbarium wall? Or is the family going to scatter remains? Are we going to use a niche? You know, there's options, right? Again, burial or cremation opens up a whole other set of questions. So a lot of times when I meet with families, you know, their eyes open up. You know, burial or cremation? Cremation. And I say, what is the plan with the cremains? And they just kind of glaze over me. Well, I haven't thought that far yet. I thought I was doing good by just answering that question. You are doing good, but that's the next question. Right? What are we going to do after the disposition for the final disposition?
And that can go into a lot of questions on what is appropriate in some areas isn't allowed, I want to be scattered on the beach. I just have to share a personal story because it was so neat. I had an elderly cousin, kind of off the generation, when he passed away in Austin a few years ago. And the church he had gone to was situated on a hillside. There were wildflowers down the hillside. And they weren't in full bloom because it was late August when he passed away. But what he wanted to do, and he had made this clear to people, he wanted his remains to be scattered on that hillside, and then a small portion was set aside that he wanted the family to take to put on his wife's grave. She was buried. But I remember, well, that was a long time ago, maybe something like that. But what a special feeling, knowing flowers were important to him, the church was important to him, and he was going to remain there. So there could be, and I hear jokes sometimes about what happens with remains, but Rock's going to guide you through it and try to eliminate some of those challenges along the way. That's if you're scattering ashes on a beach, you're going to be a problem. Okay. Okay, so we talked about that. You had mentioned earlier about who's the purchaser. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, great question is who's paying for everything? How does this work? Am I going to be paying for it by pre-planning, getting it locked in at today's prices so that my family knows it's funded and ready? Is it going to be my spouse at the time of my passing? If not my spouse, is it going to be one of my 3 children? Is it going to be an executor? Is it going to be an attorney? Like who is in control of taking care of the finances? And so I put that in the points only because, again, it's another important thing to know. And it can all be done proactively, not reactively. So by the law, when your family's upset, it's simply making a decision on, am I pre-planning this, pre-paying for this now? Am I going to wait because I have finances set aside and this individual is going to be responsible for that account, making those payments made? So a good question is who's the person? A lot of times we have cousins, aunts, friends, estranged daughters and sons who call and they start trying to get into what it is we're doing. And then we have to be careful. Well, let's talk about relationship. Who are you? What do you have to do with this? I need to see some doctors. So if you have it lined out, it's an agent of disposition essentially that controls all of what it is we do. It has nothing to do with the state, has nothing to do with your bank accounts, but it does give you the authority to put somebody in place with a few different people to follow that allows those individuals to be in charge without any questions asked. And it's a great tool for us to use when there is maybe some, family fun things going on. For us to just be able to say, hey, here's what we have on good legal standing, and we're going to move forward in this direction. Fight about it all you want, argue all you want, this is how it's going to be. Again, simplifying what can be very difficult and chaotic. We want to simplify. Because you guys know all this probably already. See a lot of nodding.
Some of you, and I always tell people, topics. You're already versed in that wonderful. Give yourself a slap on the back for being confirmed for what you know. Others of us are going, ooh, I need to do some research and preparation. We've got two great resources here. When we were having our pre-planning meeting, pre-event call last week about the seminar, another point you mentioned was Bible. Explain that to us.
The actual Bible, or you want
The Bible you referred to.
All right, so my mother-in-law, Ramsey's father, always used the word Bible as an acronym, basic instructions before leaving Earth.
You get that?
I thought that was fantastic. I loved it. I thought, I'll never forget that. And I implemented that within our funeral home. And the reason is because all of this that we are planning and that we're doing, that you guys have talked about in the months previous and probably the months ahead, is important. And put it all in place. Call it your Bible. Your family will remember this, I'm telling you. This is my basic instruction before I leave Earth. So that when you do leave, they know exactly what it is they need to do. Whether it be pre-planning, finances, properties, cars, utility, I mean, just we go on and on and on, right? But that's what I like to tell families is have the Bible, which is your personal stuff that you need them to know, in a place that is accessible. I have a lot of families who come in and say, oh, God, it's in the safety deposit box. I say, that's fantastic. Who's on the safety deposit box with you? Oh, I guess I probably won't get that. Because the son who's in charge may not have access to the safety deposit box and the Bible's locked away and it's not helpful. Or it's in the gun safe at home. What's the combination? Does anybody know it? Right? It's all on my computer. What's your password to get into the computer? It's on my phone. Well, do they know the code to your phone? You know, it's just simple things that we think, okay, we have a plan, we have a Bible, but then accessibility to it. Where is it? Is it open for everybody to get to that's close that people can get to quickly and easily? Because being in it, it's not going to be easy to think through these things. So it needs to be done beforehand so that they know exactly where to go. So that's about it.
And if you haven't gotten that decision up, I think every seminar this year, and even in the beginning of our binder, we talk about key people, and we talk about, the management policy, where's my, who I want to take care of me. So we're going to keep reminding you of that, and it's going to be one of your action steps for this time. And again, and Nancy's got a great resource for that as well. One question I want to ask, and then I'll go ahead and open up for questions from the floor. Neptune Society. I know people say, well, we've got this all covered. Explain to us a little bit about it. For some people they know, others of us, we just know Neptune Society.
Sure. Neptune Society is a cremation society. It's a good organization. It's an option for families to use for the cremation side of things. We get a lot of phone calls from families who have Neptune Society that want us to kind of help in that role. That is not the case. We're not able to do that any longer as we used to due to some of the changeover within the Neptune Society itself. Is it a great group? Yes, I would say so. Is it different from what we do? I would say so a little bit. In that there's only certain services that they'll offer, which is good for those who just want those services. For our funeral home, again, we're full service, if you will. We do everything. And so just do your homework, and make sure that it's a good choice for you. Us included, if it's a good choice for you or Neptune, because again, they're a good company. It's just different than what it used to be. So,
Okay. Anything either you want to make sure and address before we open it up to questions from the audience? Okay. All right, here's your offer. Joy. That was a fast handout. Okay, yes.
Could you explain what goes into the burial process and the cremation process?
Would you explain, okay, all of these guys, but the burial process and the cremation process? So that was the question. Was that it? Okay, right.
yeah, so burial cremation again is a mode of disposition, right? So everything can occur from the moment of passing very equally until we get to the disposition. Burial being in-ground casket, cremation being the disposition of an individual with the introduction of fire. Okay? So all the details can be very similar until we get to that point. So visitation viewing, that's optional for both.
No.
Yeah.
What goes into burial? What do you need to put somebody in the ground? What goes into?
Oh, like a casket type? Yeah, okay, so there's a couple different ways. There's green burial. I'm sure people have heard of that. There is casket
Tell us a little more
burials.
about green burials.
So green burials is kind of a new trend, if you will, yet it's been done since the beginning of time, you know. I always ask the family when they come in and say we want green burial, I say, well, what shade of green are you? And they kind of go like, what does that mean? I say, well, you know, different definitions to green burial. Some do not want to be embalmed, some don't want metal caskets in the ground, some want nothing, just a shroud in the ground, and that's, you know, the definition of green. So it's just interesting to hear the answer to the shade of green question. So there's green burials. Depending upon the cemetery, though, they may have the requirements. Okay? So there's certified green burial cemeteries. There are cemeteries that require grave liners and vaults that you have to be put into in addition to a casket. So there's a lot of follow-up questions to that question. But yes, ideally you could have ERU is what we call it, that is internal resting unit or casket. Okay, so you have to have something selected to have your body placed in, whether it be shroud, wooden casket, fiberboard, 32-ounce gold. I don't know, whatever it is you kind of want to have a car. Done that before. So yeah.
So I don't, and I don't know if this is a myth, or, you know, when people say, well, I want to be cremated, right? So I want to be cremated, but we still have to have a coffin too. Is that one of those myths that just...
Yeah, that is a myth, yeah. The state requires in Texas an alternative container, which is a fiberboard, rigid combustible, like a casket. It's a confusing term. I say cremation casket. Most people kind of get the idea in their head as to what I'm talking about when the state says an alternative container. Because most people think that's what the cremator remains go into, a container, you know, like an urn. But an alternative container is required. It's a fiberboard, rigid combustible, like casket that the individual is placed into so that we can get them into the crematory easily in a container. But you do not have to have a cremation casket, you know, like you're used to seeing. It's just a very simple container that we place the individual into to get them into the crematory and help the process.
So anything else we need to be aware of in terms of the cremation process?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go with the crematory provider, it may be important for you to know where the crematory is. A lot of places offer cremation, but the crematory is at a third-party location somewhere. Ours is right on site, so when someone's entrusted into our care, we oversee every single step of the cremation process. I think a lot of people don't think about that when they're making a phone call to a provider until maybe it's too late and they have the individual already, and then they're like, well, where are they? Well, they're here, or they're over there. So I think there's a difference in that regard as to who is overseeing the crematory itself, and is there a process that is followed for that cremation itself for each individual.
Did that help with your question?
Sort of. Something I'm told. I heard like for burial you have to have a cement vault, and that has to know.
No, ma'am. So that's a cemetery requirement. The state of Texas does not require out-of-burial containers. A grave liner and a vault, they are not the same thing, but people use them interchangeably. They're not the same. A grave liner would be a minimum type out-of-burial container that goes into the earth. A vault would be something that's kind of set above that the casket goes into and the whole unit lowers down together. That's a little more durable and reinforced. No, you are not required to have that unless the cemetery requires it. It's a good question. Sorry, I took you so long to answer.
Well, and for some of you who have more particular specific questions about situations, you can use it with Brock afterwards too, but I think that did help clarify some points. Yes?
Is there any legal paperwork that you have to have in place? Say, for instance, a spouse dies and you want them cremated, what do I have to have in place?
So I was just asking, is there any paperwork you need to have documents in place so that the loved one's wishes would be carried out? In particular, I think it really applies with cremation.
Yes,
If someone that gives permission, is that pre-planned,
Right.
and who has those
Yeah,
documents?
if you've done a pre-planned arrangement, it is a contracted arrangement that is So that'd be number one. Number two, if you are the spouse of the decedent, you have that right as legal next of kin to make that decision for your spouse if they did not already make it for themselves. The other option is that appointment of agent to control disposition of remains. That is a document that is very important that I think, and when people pre-plan, I strongly encourage them, even though you have your living will and testament with your pre-plan, that you've itemized out as to what you want, to have this document in place that states you do want to be cremated, and then it kind of limits what the family can and can't do from there. Some people say, I don't want to do it, I want anybody to see me. Okay, well, we need to write that down, because the family may very well want to see you.
So what's the name of this form?
It's appointment of agent.
Is this for the state of Texas?
It is for the state of
Appointment
Texas.
of agent
To control
establishes that, okay.
One time, so thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Those forms are easy to get. You can get them through the Texas Department of State Health Services as well. We have copies.
Other questions? Yes, oh, okay, then we'll come back, okay, with the here and then back there, okay.
No,
yes.
she's holding her hand up. You didn't see her hand.
Oh, okay, thank you, I'm glad you all help, I just misinterpreted signals. Okay, here we go, we're ready to
First of all, I want to thank you for all this wonderful information. It's a big eye-opener. My question is for Nancy. I'm curious about this palliative care. Is that covered, is the palliative care and the physician covered by Medicare?
asking about palliative care, and I think for many of us, this, well, show my ignorance, is a newer term. I mean, I hadn't heard that a lot until recently. So she's asking, is that care by Medicare or?
Well, so physicians.
Okay.
So, yeah, palliative care is a relatively new discipline, so a lot of us haven't heard of it. Yes, Medicare will cover that, so will some private insurances. Did that answer your question?
Well, okay, this question. My son is just got on Medicare. He had a lot of different conditions. Went to a palliative doctor who happened to be not insured. So are there palliative doctors that are insured?
Okay, so the question, I mean, this gets to be a particular situation, but we're going to generalize it a little bit. So if someone, she was saying in a certain situation where someone had a lot of health challenges, went to a doctor, did I understand that they did not provide or cover
They
palliative?
said they were not covered.
That they would not cover palliative care. She's asking, are there specific physicians, locations?
I would imagine, I don't know about all the palliative care programs, or the just some don't.
But there are some that are.
Yes, and you can see it in my
But
table.
that's very interesting. That's a wonderful concept, palliative
Yes,
care.
yeah, it's wonderful.
And then, like we said, it's relatively new, so a lot of people are still trying to figure out hospice. Now they're figuring this out too. So, okay. Other questions? Oh, okay. Are you a question, Catherine, or are you directing? She left her good call.
Since you're on palliative care, what about the qualifications for being in palliative?
Qualifications for palliative care is the question, right?
So, Medicare gives us guidelines for palliative care, for hospice care, and so you can ask for a referral, and someone will come through Austin Palliative Care, someone will come to you. Other palliative care programs, you go to them, and they can let you know if you qualify. But usually if you have a serious, chronic, long-term illness, where there are symptoms that need to be managed, that's pretty much the qualification. It's pretty easy to qualify for palliative care. It's a little more difficult, as it should be, to qualify for hospice care, because we receive Medicare monies to take care of people, and so they want to make sure, we're not committing fraud by, admitting Brock when clearly he doesn't need us. So, and Medicare has guidelines for every single sort of disease, major disease group that we have to look for.
I'm not skipping school either.
Okay, you're saying that some people go, wait a minute, why, you're not obligated to do this. He promises me he is. Okay, yes, in the green shirt.
If you do pre-planning, say with Ramsey or anybody else, and then you move away, and go somewhere else, what happens to what happens?
Okay, so the question was, if you've done pre-planning with Ramsey or someone else, but then you move, Now, what happens?
Fantastic question. I think that's the question all the time. The way that we write our pre-arrangement insurance, because that's what it is through an insurance provider. We have to do that through the state of Texas because we did not have a pre-existing trust account set up for pre-need funding. So we have an insurance company, FDLIC, that we use, and what it is an itemization of goods and services that are with our current price list of today. And you are making payments or a payment to those goods and services, and it's locked in with the funeral home of origination and the insurance company, okay? So what that means is I'm not getting any of the funding. Ramsey Funeral Home does not get any of the funding after the passing. The money goes to the insurance company. You move away, for whatever reason, that funding and that policy does not stay with Ramsey, it follows you, the purchaser. And so you would take it to a new location, new residence, new funeral home locally, and you have that conversation. I would like to transfer this pre-arrangement to you from here, and they'll say, okay, let's see the items of goods and services, and then they'll have that conversation with you. Now, I always say to families, that funding is intact. However, you want to visit with other funeral homes to see if it's going to be transferred for the exact same amount. A lot of family funeral homes will say, absolutely, we're going to cover that. We'll match it as it's written. Or they may say, that's Ramsey does things different than we do here in Iowa. We're going to have another $500 fee. At least you're aware of it beforehand. With some services, families say, well, Rob, I've known you for years. I'm going to move, but when I pass, I want them to still call you. Can you do that? Absolutely. We can have someone local, wherever it is you move to, work as on behalf of us. We still do all the claiming and we pay them out of your claim. So again, it's that relationship and we're able to do that for anybody anywhere. Okay? Great question. Transfers with you.
Other questions? No. Yes.
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, Chef, what if Ramsey goes out of business? Right? We don't want that to happen. But if it were to happen, that's a great question if you've pre-funded. Okay, so same scenario really is if you were to move. You have the option to do one of two things. You can withdraw your funding and get your money back and go towards somewhere to do something else, or you have the option to transfer to the new funeral home that may have bought Ramsey out, or whatever it may be, or you can transfer it down the road to another local mortuary funeral home in town. Again, the funding is not held by me. That changed years ago, and that's one of the reasons why. Well, what if I give Ramsey my funding and it's in their trust account and they go out of business? Well, then we have an issue, right? So Texas Department of Banking and Insurance, Texas Department of Banking and Insurance covers pre-arrangement contracts. So that's why they're written to a third-party group, which is a good idea for security.
Yes.
But the insurance company goes out of business.
Great question. We've had that happen too. So, very, very simple. How many of you have had life insurance that was written with one company and then you get a letter saying that another company's taking that insurance over? Same thing applies, right? So it's an insurance company, a new insurance provider will come through and basically administer the funding. So the funeral home just has to claim the funds through this other organization rather than the original, which is not uncommon. So good question. Again, protected by the Department of Banking and Insurance here in the state of Texas.
Right here.
How commonly is embalming still done?
Yes, how commonly is embalming still done? It's a great question. I would probably say it's a little less than what it used to be for the obvious reason of cremation. Yet, I would also say that we have a lot of cremation families that still want to have that final viewing visitation time where we would still do the preparation for a public viewing visitation that we would need to do for that. So as uncommon as maybe people think it is, a lot of our cremation families opt for that final viewing. Again, giving family closure. And you have in your handouts, if you don't, there's one back there that really gives a good understanding of why these things are important that we've done for so long. So it's not as common maybe as it used to be, but it's not as uncommon as maybe you might think. Good question.
So that does offer that payment of putting both worlds there. For people who, for family reasons, they do want to have the final viewing, but they have preferred not to go with the burial. They want to go with cremation, so you can, and that's kind of back to the process too. So you can do the embalming, have the final up from there.
That's exactly right.
Yes?
If the family member dies at home and they have hospice, and the spouse of the deceased wants the family who lives close to come in and view the body at home, is there a time limit that a body can stay at the house before it's got to be moved to a funeral home, so that the family can possibly do their final farewells right there at home?
So the question was, if someone passes away at home, they're in hospice care.
Or just
Yeah, take out that person. They pass away at home, and family members have made the request that they want to come see the person at home before they go to the funeral home. How long does that, can the body remain there, I guess is the way to put it. Probably both of you, Rob, and I bet you can fill in with some of your work too. Or who wants to go?
I can tell you what happens once we are involved. State of Texas says within 24 hours of passing, one of two things has to occur with an individual who's deceased. That is either embalming or the placement of remains under refrigeration. So that's within 24 hours. So as soon as we're notified, we need to do one of the two things within 24 hours of getting that individual into our
They have
care.
24 hours to stay at the house, or what, I wouldn't think it would take that long. for
Sure.
them to come in, but
Sure, and we have hospice nurses who reach out to us and let us know, hey, I just wanted to alert you and notify you that this individual's passing on. Yet we have family members driving from Dallas or Houston, and they don't want you here until 8 p.m. tonight. Absolutely fine. If something changes, call us and let us know. Otherwise, we'll be there at 8.
And our staff, usually our nurses stay often, if they can, until the funeral home arrives, just because that can be really emotional when the body is removed. There are also groups that can help if you use dry ice with the body, and there's ways to place it under the body, like if family's coming from Iowa and you don't want, if it's a child, for example, you don't want that child to be removed from your home just yet. And my understanding is up to 3 days, I think. But that's sort of out. Yeah, you gotta plan that ahead of time. That can't happen every moment, yeah. But I have heard of that happening.
Okay. Let's see, over here and then over here. Okay, yes.
Reading a lot about alternative to cremation with water burial, human composting. Is that available in Texas?
Can you hear what she said? Can you repeat it?
Yes, she just mentioned there's some alternative disposition types, alkaline hydrolysis, which is water cremation, I heard you refer to, human composting. Neither of those options are available in the state of Texas currently. There are only a few states that authorize and allow for water cremation. Texas is not one of those states, and again, human composting is not a legal disposition here in the state of Texas. Yet, I have had some families who have said, I want the water cremation or the alkaline hydrolysis. How fast can you get it to Oklahoma, or whatever state it is that provides that service? And that's, again, just transporting and logistics. So option, but not in the state of Texas. Great question.
Yes.
I have 2 points. The first one is, if a person dies at home, they are not officially declared dead until an official authorized person comes and declares the death. And so the point being, my brother-in-law passed away like 10 minutes till midnight, but the authorized nurse or whatever didn't get there until like 1:30 or something. So it was not on this day, it was on that day, which really upset my sister because I know he died on this day, et cetera, et cetera. That's one point, but
Hang on the other one just a minute, okay? So she was making the comment that someone passes away, they're still not officially dead. Okay, pronounced dead, and that happens by?
Well, if they're with hospice, then the hospice nurse will come out.
And then
And
you
we
do
listen,
that.
we listen for a heartbeat for 2 minutes, which is the longest 2 minutes usually for that family. And then once it's been established that there is no heartbeat for 2 minutes, they are pronounced legally deceased at that time. But yeah, it can be confusing for the family when you're like, no, they died on March 9th, not on March 10th.
The particular example she was referring to is if someone at home and for all purposes, passed away a little before midnight, but before the official picked up there at 1:30 in the morning. So we have a different death date. You know, it's back to regulations, but yeah, it's something families have to deal with. And you have another point.
The other question is, I have to say, I do a lot of genealogy work. I'm on the board for Williamson County Genealogy Society. And I have a real issue with throwing your ashes just anywhere. So my question is, what is the legal requirements to be able to throw it on in a stream or on a field or on the beach or wherever? Because I know my husband's adopted, and we have searched and searched and searched and finally found that he was cremated. Now I can't find where his remains are. And all we wanted to do was go and give our final respects, but you can't find that information.
So the question had to do with
The legality.
where the remains can legally be disposed, and the documentation for that, especially important for people who are really into genealogy and wanting to see the place and have the documentation. Perhaps we would pick up on that.
Sure, private land that's owned, you just have to get authorization. Public land, you too would have to get authorization. Public waterways and things of that nature, you can do what you see fit. So difficult. I can't answer that because I can see that you don't like that answer. But it's one of those things that with cremation kind of brings in a whole nother level of decisions and make a note of it somewhere that somebody knows where you are.
And I recognize that the Bible says we go dust to dust and all that, but when your DNA is being thrown into my water supply, I don't appreciate it.
Sure. And we're talking temperatures where there's nothing biohazardous about cremated radiance, but I understand what you're saying.
The comment was made that if cremains are supposed to have in the waterway, that DNA in the waterway, but it's saying no hazardous materials after the cremation and so on.
Is there DNA?
No, it's been,
That's been burned.
it's gone. Well,
There's a 40-hour waiting period when someone passes away before we can move forward with cremation.
that's an important point.
But yeah, there's a 40-hour waiting period, so that if there's any type of medical inquest, investigation, authorities have that time to make those decisions at that point. Mm-hmm.
Josie has a question, then I'll come over here.
For Ramsey, can you tell us the process for military families, veterans, when there's the spouse is deceased, that's the veteran, and then the spouse that was living and now is deceased? Can you kind of walk us through that?
The question I think had to do with notifying family, the funeral homes, how they can enter into that, and there have been different families involved, and is that sort of it, Josie?
No, just how do you go about it with the veterans?
Better.
This question is for Ramsey, working with veterans.
Yes, ma'am. So veterans have earned a lot of benefits by serving our country. We have some thoughtful decision guides that I think are important. We did not bring those with us because they are a tool. It's not a handout to just be thrown into a drawer. We want to go over these tools with you so that they're effective and they're used. And we do have one that's specific to veterans because there's another fold of benefit that is earned by a veteran and potentially the veteran's spouse. I was raised in a military family. My dad was 22 years Army, so I would say that my mom probably sacrificed just as much as my dad did while he was serving. He would probably agree with me on that. So there are benefits that a veteran has earned, and the spouse as well. That's a difficult question to answer simply because of the benefits that are offered. But we would walk through with the family and let them know, hey, based on their service, these are some of the benefits that they're eligible should you take advantage of them. A couple things, would be burial flag, whether they're cremated, the veteran's entitled to a flag, they're entitled to military honors, they're entitled to a headstone or a monument, even a plaque that can go on a privately purchased monument. There are VA benefits, and I believe there's a useful checklist that I included in your packets. There's a section for VA particular. There's a great VA group here in Williamson County that can also, depending upon the obviously trying to help, but we don't need you, we're gonna go with the next 10 directly into the benefits that they earn. So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
I just want to pick up on one thing. I think you indirectly both use that term, walk along with you. And I think that is so important. So in your work, you're walking along, you're preparing for this graceful exit, that let's be positive, and you've got support here. You're not alone. And the same thing when families are planning with you, you're not just, and it's part of theirs, but from what I see, it's not just a business administrator taking care of things. Your philosophy within your particular business is really to walk along with the family.
Correct. Yeah, we are we business, yes, but we also first identify it as the ministry. We want to love the people. Life is hard. I think all of us would agree on that, and it's a lot easier when you have somebody who's willing to walk alongside you whenever or whatever you're going through. And we don't see that any different with past loved ones, because we've all kind of got to go through it. We just want to follow them through the process and take care of individuals.
And I would add, we're not here to take over or tell you what to do or make you feel bad for wanting to do something a certain way. We're really there to serve you. And I would say that's true for both of us. And I would also say, we have a We Honor Veterans program, Josie. So if somebody is on hospice care, you can ask about that. And sometimes then the social worker can help pre-plan or figure out what benefits are available ahead of time.
Okay, I'm going to cut this off, and I still have just a few announcements, but I want us to thank you all so much for your time. And for those of you who have friends I'll wait for next month. Tell them they missed a really policy help seminar meeting to great people. So we thank you for helping us work through the elephant in the room in this case and seeing. Now remember, you have action steps. Be forewarned. Next month, it's a whole different topic. We're not going to off. We're going to see who's taking some steps towards their action steps. So there's some great resources in the library and some links. Brielle will be mailing out an email, and we'll have a link to the video and other resources that will be identified. So I want to remind you, see you in April for downside. Some of our topics are, what do we mean by that? The topic of decluttering versus downsizing. There really is a difference. It's really depending on your purpose, your goal, and where you are. Come learn more about that in April. Thank you. April 13th. And then you can come that Saturday, April 15th, to our showing event. And if you notice, this is strategically planned April 15th. You just finish doing your taxes, and you can go and look over your tax stuff, and you can consolidate, and you have all this extra paperwork that you want to have shredded. We are here to serve. So we will be in the Keller Williams parking lot down the corner of 10th and Austin on April 15th, 10 to 12. Is that it, Brielle? So you can bring your material